Kia ora everyone, my name's Zach, I love rugby, welcome back to Hakatime Rugby. So Welsh fans will be waking up pretty happy this morning, securing the win 42-0, secured the bonus point, and that's one of the most important things here. I think as we progress through this tournament, it's going to be so tight between top teams that bonus point victories are going to become so important. So for Wales to go out and do that first up under a new coaching staff, I think they'll be very, very happy with that. 3 tries to Josh Adams, continues his World Cup try-scoring feats, as really his 2019 try-scoring feats. He seems to be constantly getting the ball in the right position to go over the line. So another great game there from him. Also tries to Nick Tompkins as well as to George North. So overall, I think Wales can be reasonably happy with the performance. Those who follow this channel will know that I've predicted Wales will win the Six Nations overall. And when we did the early analysis based on squad selections, based on the team list for this game, based on what we were expecting from Wayne Pivac and with the new coaching staff, a lot of what we looked at surrounded around building on existing frameworks that were put in place and very, very successful for Wales in 2019, both structure and attack as well as structure and defence, but also with an eye to the future with some of these great young players coming through. In addition to that, it just looked like they had really, really strong rotation ability at both loose forward areas as well as at 9. So overall, a lot of upside to this Welsh team. And we had a few of those questions answered in this. I think we are certainly going to see some changes in terms of their attacking mindset. A lot more attack focused in this game. More so than kicking for territory and contesting high balls. We saw a lot more, in that contestable area between each team's 22. We saw Wales running the ball more significantly. Last year, I think there was more of a focus on gaining field position through the boot and contesting the ball. This year, we're certainly seeing the ball going through the hands, and we can see very clearly the attacking structure. Now, I haven't followed a lot of European rugby, and the Scarlets in particular, to get insights into how Wayne Pivac plays, but I think from what I've heard, the Scarlets do adopt a more attacking mindset, and we're seeing a continuation of that here. So there's some clues starting to come to the front. Other questions that we had were around outside centre. Obviously, Jonathan Davies, who I regard as one of the best centres in the world, not there for this Six Nations campaign. George North slotted in there, and overall probably had a mixed bag. There were a couple of times that he was able to make breaks and attack. There were also a couple of times that some of the defensive reads I thought he was a little bit off. So let's put that down to first game blues, I guess. Obviously, he will build into that. But decision-making at outside centre is very, very critical. And if you're starting to have some lapses against a team like Italy, you are certainly going to have trouble coming your way against France, who I think has got the best midfield in the Six Nations. Gary Ringrose would have a field day down that passage as well. And we don't have to talk about Manu Tuilagi. We know that he will be targeting that passage as well. So that's probably a work on for Wales. I think shoring up both defensive reads from an outside centre perspective, as well as putting a bit more pressure on the first receiver. I'd like to see a bit more of a rush defence coming from the line there. So we're certainly seeing the changes that we were expecting to see with Wayne Pivac coming in and with Shaun Edwards now no longer part of this Welsh team. It's going to be interesting to see how that evolves further. A couple of real big highlights that we can talk about. The inclusion of 2 young guys. Nick Tompkins came in and scored a try on debut. And Johnny McNichol came in as well and played the full game. Now, my assessment of their performance, very, very hard to read from Nick Tompkins' perspective. He did have some injury cover minutes there as part of the head assessment in the first half when Johnny McNichol went off. And then he replaced Hadley Parkes at inside centre. That's starting to show, I think, where the thinking is from Wayne Pivac's perspective around that inside centre, outside centre slot. Parkes had a great game, I thought. Played really, really well, really, really solid. But with the substitution coming for Parkes and not for North, they may look to persevere a little bit more with George North there at outside centre. Johnny McNichol, one thing that I really liked about his play in this one, high work rate. And anytime you have wingers with a high work rate, it really does add an extra dimension to the team's attack. So it was good to see a young guy in there looking for work, getting work, and making the most of his opportunity. I thought overall he had a great game, and I think we'll see a lot more of him in the Six Nations. I think he's one player they will persevere with to develop that position there as his. And as I say, I think the high work rate is a big marker in that first up performance. Concerns though, certainly the scrum is a concern. I think there were a number of times penalties against Wales from a scrummaging perspective. I was surprised Italy didn't target it more. There was one period just before the end of the half where Italy were, 2 penalties. They chose the line out and to build off the maul, and didn't get any purchase there towards the end of the half. So I would have liked to see them really target and continue to attack that scrum. They might have had some success. As I mentioned, George North also a couple of defensive lapses. So they could have looked to build off the scrum, either target for penalties or potentially a penalty try. And if they were to get the ball out and isolated George North there out on the outside centre, I would have thought they'd be targeting that kind of area to score points through or to get some attacking breaks, but they just didn't seem to sustain that long enough. So overall, Welsh fans can be happy. Bonus point win at home, 5 tries, in what is a first up performance, I think that meets all expectations. There are certainly some questions and some things we need to monitor. And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to give a really, really detailed breakdown later in this week, because there were a lot of little points I uncovered throughout that are starting to give me some insights in what I expect from some of the bigger games. And for that, I think I'm going to need a much longer period of time. But I'm going to get really detailed on strategy and tactics and what I'm starting to see now form from Wales' perspective. Before the Six Nations kicked off, I predicted Wales would win. Now that the Six Nations has kicked off and we have some questions answered, I'm going to revisit that at the end of the first week. And you might be surprised at where I go with some of this discussion, so make sure you tune in for that. But that's it from me, guys. To summarize overall, I'd probably give Wales a C+. That might seem a bit harsh, but they met the objective, as in they came away with that bonus point win. But there are certainly some concerns in there that they need to fix up. Can they do it? That remains to be seen. Will Wayne Pivac alter or change strategy? That remains to be seen. But right now, based on this performance, I think there are some real talking points that both England, Eddie Jones will be targeting, the Irish will be targeting after their performance as well, and I'm going to call them out. So make sure you tune in for that, guys. If you prefer a more detailed discussion, I'm going to give it to you later in the week. That's it from me, guys. Make sure you join for the next few discussions. We're going to be covering all things Six Nations throughout the tournament. If you like this content, please hit like. Subscribe to the channel because, as I say, I'm continuing to drop videos on the Six Nations. I'm going to give you all of my detailed analysis and thoughts throughout the week. And I'll see you guys back here for more. Enjoy the rugby.